Hey Spirlifters, good day and I hope you're doing well. In this episode I interview Laura. Laura's a psychic medium from Nova Scotia, Canada. And in this episode we talk about life after death, where our loved ones are, how they're doing, and we also discuss the valuable gift it is to actually be human. So I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I hope you all are doing well where you are. Take care and all the best, Spirlifters. Laura, welcome to Spirlift.
Thanks, Devin. Happy to be here.
Thank you so much. Just to start off, Laura, please tell Spirlifters, what is a psychic medium and when did you realize at what age you had these abilities?
Well, as a kid, I can look back on it now and say I was always intuitive and I could see where things happened. I guess when I was really young, I just thought everybody was intuitive. So everybody knew things about people. I didn't realize I was any different. And then you start to get older and you start to talk to people and kids start to call you weird. And, like how would you know that? And, so I guess I kind of went within myself for quite a while. And when I was a teenager, I started to realize that there was something different happening. I was getting very prophetic dreams and just knowing when people were going to die and these kinds of things that are very scary for a young person. And at the time I was really involved in the Catholic Church, and I was told that if anything was happening to me that I didn't like, I could pray and ask God to take it away. And I did for a while successfully block my ability. But when I got pregnant for my first child, something opened within me and I was quite aware that it was a door I couldn't close. And my great-grandmother, who is also very psychic herself, she came forward in spirit and she said that if I didn't learn how to use my ability, I would feel like I would have mental health issues or I'd feel a little crazy throughout my life, that this was something that I could not turn it off. And I listened to her because she did turn off her ability, and she did have a lot of problems with depression in her life and anxiety. So I took her advice and I started to develop my own spiritual practice. So I would have been about 28 by the time I was fully involved and knowing I was a psychic and knowing that I had to develop my ability. So that's, I almost started doing readings pretty much right away because I was guided by spirit, by my guides and my great-grandmother and a good friend of mine at the time who was totally in the physical, but the two of us were developing at the same time, so we were helping each other. But I started doing readings pretty much right away. So yeah, it's now I've been doing readings about 14 years now. So
interesting. And how old were you actually when you really started to realize this? Like around what age, more or less?
Well, spirit started talking to me when I was 9, and quite often. But when it started, I guess something that I didn't understand at the time, and a lot of people don't understand, is that sometimes vibrationally, the vibration is off. So it didn't come through like somebody was talking to me. It came through like voices and sounds that I couldn't make out, almost like a radio that's out of tune. And it was really upsetting. I was 9. I didn't understand it. I didn't know what was happening. And I used to try so hard to block it out and play loud music and that kind of thing.
Can you just sorry, Laura, to interrupt you, because this is really interesting. Can you, and I'm trying to tangibly or even rationally trying to figure this out. It's not easy. And I think for a lot of Spirlifters that are really curious as well, what is that feeling? What is that sensation? What is that because people like yourself and what you do can have, let's say, in for lack of a better expression, a more tangible way to connect like that. And for you, it seems maybe more automatic. So can you describe in a little bit more detail for people like myself who are not like that necessarily? What is that like?
Well, it wasn't always sometimes, but more often it was like sound almost in my head. But there was sometimes that I heard them with my physical ears as well. So if I heard them with my physical ears, it was almost like somebody standing right next to me, like talking in my ear. And then you would hear it as if you hear any sound. But when they were talking to me more through an energetic source, so I think of it like the information is coming through my chakras, so through my energy centers. Now, 9 years old, I had no idea, but something happened to open my energy centers. And the only thing that happened to me that year, I got really sick. I had a high fever, and I had hallucinations during the fever. And then as I got better, then I started to hear these voices, and they didn't make a lot of sense. It was more like sounds, or like you could tell somebody was talking to you, but it was almost like the voice in your head, but it didn't make a lot of sense if you're just listening to the words. I had to
like a faint sound, like it's scrambled?
It could be kind of like scrambled. It could have been, it felt very like confusing for me as a kid. And all I really remember about that time, because it was upsetting, and I did ask, I asked God for help in a sense, to help me with this. But at the time, I remember being really confused and not understanding what it was, and it almost sounded like, to me at the time, like robots talking, or like electrical kind of sounds, but you could tell they were words, and you could tell they were trying to talk to me. So whenever I did really try to listen, to focus myself to listen, I didn't hear what the words were saying, but I could always hear the feeling. So although I didn't understand the words, I always got the message through how it made me feel. Mm-hmm. So they could tell me things at that time, but I really wasn't ready, and I really wasn't in a good place as far as I couldn't ask anybody for help. My family didn't understand. There was nobody I could talk to. My family actually wouldn't have been accepting, so it was something that I was very alone with.
Yeah, and
I used it. I used what was happening to me to get closer to my feeling of what God was. Now, things have obviously evolved for me, and I look at God as a source energy, or a universal intelligence, or a universal consciousness that can exist in all of us. So I don't look at things exactly the same as I did then, but then it really helped me to know that I didn't always feel completely alone, and that when I asked for help, I did get it. And so right. I think some people that have these kinds of abilities that just show up, I think they would have a similar kind of story, that things have happened to them that they had to learn how to figure it out. And that if you're called to a path like this, you have to take things as they come, and then sort of accept it as training. You're being trained. And so I didn't know. Yeah, go ahead.
No, keep going. I wanted to ask you something in detail with that.
Yeah, no, I didn't. At the time, I didn't understand. I didn't understand any of this. It's taken me many, many years to figure out what this must have been. Mm-hmm. But the voices did give me some information at times, although very piecemeal. And then as I got older, the voices stopped because I didn't want them anymore. And they stopped so I could go through my teen years and just be a regular kid. But when I was 17, I started to have the dreams again. So I started to have more dreams about things that were going to happen. People that, I had a dream about somebody who was going to die in a very dramatic way, and they did. And things like that. So again, 17 years old, scared out of my mind. And I prayed again, and it did go away for another 10 years or so, until I had my first child. And at that point, I feel like I was ready. I was ready to receive. I was ready to learn. So these things have always been happening with me. I wasn't ready for it until I was a little bit older. So,
and that's something I want to kind of pointedly ask you, is that, do you think in a sense you were chosen to have these abilities versus other people? Because like they're naturally coming to you, and this has naturally happened to you. And then like in certain parts of your life, you say, you don't want it to be so present with you, and you want to turn it off and want to turn on. Like, how is that for you, feeling whether or not you were granted this ability, like you were born with it? And when you say also turn it off, like, what does that mean, turn it off?
Yeah, it's actually not a simple thing to learn, I guess, for many people to just turn it off. And that's something that takes some practice. When I was a kid, I felt like I was, and many kids are, as many spiritual children that are experiencing these things are very protected. And I feel like as a child, if it's possible, you can ask for help and be protected. So you're allowed to, in my opinion, you're allowed to just be a regular kid. But I have helped a lot of kids through this kind of thing, because I feel for them, because I didn't have any help. So I have helped a lot of kids with this. I just think that turning it on and off is a skill that you have to learn. And I feel like this ability is within me to connect, and I know that to turn it off would mean that to turn it off completely, like forever, would mean that I would not be living my calling. I wouldn't be living my soul path. So I know that would in turn mean I would be unhappy, and nobody wants that. You wouldn't choose that if you had to, but the ability carries responsibility. And so I was very aware that I would have the responsibility of knowing how to also handle people, because that's actually what happened to my great grandmother. She did tea leaf readings, but then felt such immense responsibility because she was accurate, and then felt this immense responsibility to look after people as well and not make sure people are okay, that she couldn't do it. She couldn't handle the responsibility of it. But then in turn, not trying to work with it meant that she had a harder time, with her mental health at throughout her life. So I guess, long answer to your question, but, I really feel like, yes, we're all unique individuals, and some of us are we come here with this ability to connect to the other side, but I don't have a lot of abilities that other people have, there's a lot of things that I can't do that other people can do. So I look at this like it's also the ability, the natural ability might be there, but you have to hone your ability. You have to work with it. And it's like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. So I always felt like this was something that, yes, it's part of me, and I came here with this. But if I don't take it seriously, if I don't take the responsibility seriously, if I don't stay humble and grounded, then it's not going to be for the highest good anymore. Sure. So I always knew the weight of it, the responsibility of it.
No, yeah, and I can imagine if you're really feeling that and you felt this as a kid, then it must be like just something so different than what other people experience, but it carries a certain responsibility too. Yeah. So that it's a certain heaviness in a different way. And going, look, I'm really interested for our spirit lifters to ask about loved ones that passed, and I will in a moment, but I'm curious as well to ask you, Laura, as far as our time here as humans, as you, Laura, as me, Devin, as spirit lifters with each of their individual names and identities, for our experience as humans here on Earth, what from your purview is our reason of being here?
There's lots of reasons why we're here. The main one that I think is probably the biggest one for us to know is that we have the chance to be here to expand our souls, to expand our consciousness, and to be here on a path of learning. And this is the only place in the vicinity, in the close vicinity in the universe. This is the only place where souls can come and we get the greatest learning here. And there are lots of places where souls can go, but Earth is the place that's like the spiritual boot camp. It's the place where we have the most chance to evolve. And that's what...
But why is that? Why is that? I'm sorry to interrupt you, but just out of curiosity, why is that? Why Earth? Why not somewhere else?
Well, I think that here we have a special circumstance of a slower physical vibration.
Okay.
And I don't think that now people can prove me wrong if they need to. I don't know. I don't have all the answers. I just know.
No, I want to know from your perspective, though.
I just know that Earth is on this slower vibration. So when souls come here, we forget. That's why we don't know about everything we've done in other lives. That's why we don't know everything we are, and we have to remember the things that we are. So in this life, we may think that we may be driven to go to medical school and become a doctor. And we may think that that's a brand new epiphany, like, oh, I'm going to be a doctor and that's my goal. But more likely, there's been many lives before this one that person had been trained in lots of medical areas and medical fields. So the soul desire is to go to medical school, but it's not brand new information for the soul. It might feel like brand new information for the human, but for the soul, they need the triggers to remember everything that they are, because we don't come here with our memory. It's like we forget everything, and then it's like the trick of the universe. A lot of these things you're going to find, a lot of these questions, it's like the universe, it feels like they're playing a joke on us, because we have all this wisdom, we have all this ability, we have all the tools that we would need to deal with every problem, but we come here without them. And then we get stronger and we face them and we overcome adversity and challenge. And that's really what the soul is wanting. Now, on another level, on a kind of a more of a human, I guess, perspective, I see past loved ones or spirits come to me and tell me that we really got it made here. This is a beautiful life and a beautiful world. And that we have all this, we have the whole package. We have the physical sensation. If we want to, we can have the spiritual connection. We can enjoy our relationships with people and the physical conversations with people, and like the sensation of touch and eating and hearing and seeing color. And it's not that they don't have the vividness, but a lot of the sensation is missing in the spirit world. So they're jealous of us.
But why is that? Because it's not contained into like this bodily form, or is it just more fluid, the spirit feeling? Is it I don't know, is it like in relation to what you're saying, is it this kind of what am I trying to look for, this way of containing, let's say, for lack of a better expression, our spirit into this way of being, that it's more honed in rather than just the contrast is what makes this special. Is that? Well,
I guess you would think, like, when spirit go to the other side, you'd think they could have anything. Right. Well, they can have pretty much anything, but nothing's physical. So they're at a very high vibration, and we're able to exist at a lower vibration in our physical body and have a life that we experience in every way. And a lot of times when past loved ones cross over initially, that I don't think it lasts forever, that they miss being here, like in the physical body. I think when they first initially pass, or like if they always smoked, some of the first things I hear is, man, I wish I could have a cigarette.
Really?
Or if they really enjoyed food. Yeah. Or if they really enjoyed food, they might say, oh, I just wish I could have a lasagna again. Or, it's just, they have a sense of humor too. So they say all kinds of funny things about things like this. But I believe that we're on a little bit of a slower vibration so we can have all these physical sensations. And life is a really beautiful thing if that's where your focus is, if that's what you're paying attention to. It's very, very amazing. Even the contrast, like the contrast between, what somebody might perceive as negative or positive, it can be a very beautiful experience and an amazing learning experience to be grateful for the time that you're here.
Yeah.
How many souls, I can't tell you how many souls come forward and they weren't able to live their life's purpose. And that's their biggest regret, is they gave their life, their time and energy away to other things and didn't focus it in on what they really wanted to do.
Yeah.
So a lot of, we have a lot of amazing things here that I think if they hadn't had the time to savor, if they hadn't had the time to savor their life, they miss it. It's like anything. If you go to supper and you get an amazing, I don't know if you like cheesecake, but if you get an amazing cheesecake, you want to savor it. And it almost like tastes better, and you don't want the experience to end. And I think that's sort of the way they're looking at us and saying, man, you don't know what you have.
Sure. And Laura, I mean, even scientists have pointed this out, the rarity of coming into human form, or, like as far as when you deal with conception on a scientific level, like the millions of odds of actually becoming a human is quite rare. I mean, is there some, in your opinion, what you have come to know, is there some kind of rarity of being a human in that way? Are the chances of coming in human form quite rare?
I don't know if I can answer it that way. I guess what I would say is that I believe that the divine plan can be very mysterious to us in our physical form, and there absolutely is a divine plan. There are way more spirits than soul incarnated humans, we'll say.
Oh, really?
So every one of us has a team of spirits around us to help guide us, and often, like, my experience and why I had to learn to open and close myself is because I would go into public places, and let's just say there's 50 people there. There was always at least 1,000 spirits. So you could say that being human, it's a privilege, and it's one that I don't think everybody appreciates, but it is a privilege. And you could, if you were looking at just the numbers, I guess you could say it could be a very rare occurrence, like that an actual soul comes into a human body. And I know a lot of people are thinking, what are you talking about? There's 7 billion people in the world. But for every person, every person has a soul team around them, and then countless spirits and souls on the other side, or countless spirits and souls in the universe. Mm-hmm. You can imagine that if you're just looking at numbers, then yes, you could say that we have a very small existence as like humans in the universe.
Right.
But I guess the way that I see it is that you can choose. There's no real like red tape, or there's no real judgment from the other side. Mm-hmm. Any soul can choose to come here, but there's a little bit of gray area as to what happens with your life, because you have a soul blueprint that you must live through, and we have measured choices in our life. But I do believe that some people can choose not to be in awareness, or they can choose not to follow the absolute best path for them.
Right.
So I guess there's like, for me, I look at it like there is a plan for everyone. There are measured choices and measured effects of what choices they make. Mm-hmm. And we all have a certain amount of time while we're here. I don't think we can adjust that. I think soul decides, I have a block of time, and that's my block of time. So it puts a different spin on the whole existence. I don't think about suicides the same way. I don't think about births the same way as people, or death. So I don't have a perception, I guess, to say. if we can say it's rare to be here, but I guess I would say that we have a very small population of physical souls, like physical beings here, compared to the universe, compared to what's happening out there. Yeah.
That's really interesting. Go kind of threading into what you were saying just now as well in relation to a plan. I've always had a hard time grasping this. Why does there have to be a plan to any of this? I mean, like what? I mean, you know, supposedly God or source or however you want to term that, like, is omnipresent, what's the word for universal love? I forgot.
Yeah. No, I know what you mean. Yeah.
Bad with words. Yeah. But all loving, all knowing, everywhere. I mean, so what? Why is there? For me, it's hard to understand sometimes when people discuss like there has to be a plan. Why a plan for what?
Well, what I've learned, what I've discovered, I guess, through talking to souls and asking these questions, because they're questions that people ask a lot.
Yeah.
I see it like almost like a tree. So if you look at the top of a tree, and there's like the trunk of the tree, and then there's the next like main kind of bigger branches, and they branch out into all these little tiny little twigs. So that's kind of how I see a soul plan. So it's not necessarily like it's not like you're going to come here and you have to marry this person and you have to have 2.4 kids and you have to have this career and it's not really like that. It's more like your soul is infinitely intelligent and wise. And so before you came here, you talked to other souls, probably your parents or your siblings or your friends, or maybe even like your future wife. And you may have talked to all these souls before you came, and you came up with a plan. And you had contracts with all these souls to accomplish certain things. Nothing happens by accident. So our souls in some other time, in some other place, came up with a plan to have a life that they were going to learn the things that they haven't learned yet, do the things they haven't done yet, because it's about experience and expansion. So typically souls don't come here for no reason. You might see the odd soul that comes here for like what I call a soul vacation. So like, they plan their
party all the time.
Yeah, like they plan their life in such a way that they don't have a lot of responsibilities and things come easily to them and they kind of glide through life. But
sign me up for that.
That's scary. Yeah, you sign up for that next time.
Yeah.
But it's very rare because most souls want the expansion. They want the challenge and adversity so they can change and grow. Because the whole purpose of the universe is expansion. That's what's happening all the time. Universe is constantly expanding. So we're part of that and we're doing the same thing. We got to keep up. So we're here and we have these plans that are built to help us, to challenge us to learn the things we haven't learned yet, or to overcome bad behavior, or to overcome something that maybe we've had poor self-worth, or we weren't able to have good relationships in the past, or we weren't able to overcome money issues, or whatever. We build these themes in. So the trunk of the tree is like your values and your belief, and maybe like any wisdom that you were able to capture, bring with you, and who you are, your personality is like this trunk of the tree. And then it can branch off into these main branches. So you may be really driven to take a course, like go to college or take the specific course, and that may be a major branch. Then as the branches like branch off, you're talking about smaller choices that you make throughout the day. So for somebody who maybe has been born with heart trouble, but they're making choices every day that are either healthy or not, that would lead off in different parts of the branch. But everything at the end of all these branches is all already planned, an expected result. But you do have free will within your treetop. You know, you have free will to go back and forth and choose within. But I think it is confusing for people to understand, how could everybody have a plan and how could all our plans intertwine? But from what I can see from the other side and looking into, no, I don't do this as a specialty, but it has happened to me before where I've kind of popped into somebody's Akashic record or popped into somebody's life plan or their, what they would call the book of life or any of those things. Everything really is organized and everything really is planned.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and I wish I had more explanation for you than that, but in my work, that's how things kind of come across. Yeah, and some things happen to people they don't understand at the time, but it makes a lot of sense later on. So
and it just seems like, based on what you're saying, that we need to just be living out this life the most optimal way possible with the least fear. I mean, we're human. We're going to be stressed. We're going to be anxious. We're going to be depressed. I mean, that we can't, I think it's almost ridiculous that we expect anything less than that and for certain things. But there has to be some level of trust as well to really, really get the, both sides of those issues, and speaking about loved ones, Laura, with this, and this is a heavy topic right now, especially we're recording this in 2020. There's it seems like death is on the door, mat of everyone's top of mind, unfortunately. I mean, I'm not trying to be morbid saying that. What I'm trying to say is the pandemic has just put such a dim light on life in certain ways. Not for everybody, not in all circumstances, but what I mean by that, in particular circumstances especially, is that people who have known other people, whether family, friends, or just acquaintances, have had loved ones pass away from COVID and maybe not have been able to say goodbye to them just because of the protocol in hospitals, and rightfully so. They may have their own way of doing things, and it's just what it is. But what I want to bring to discussion here is so many people, just in general, not just this year, or in any year, anytime, people want to know, especially when they lose someone, where do they go, and are they gone forever? What do you say to that?
I think the idea of death is a little bit of we don't understand it the way that it actually happens. And I can only talk from like what I see, but I see people that the physical death is more like a transition. It's a transition into, or a rebirth into the next phase of life. And I mean, on a practical, logical level, I wouldn't be able to do this work if our souls didn't live on. There's no way I'd be able to contact past loved ones. And if it wasn't real, I wouldn't have a business. Like it wouldn't happen. People wouldn't come. So I see the proof of it every day. And I know it's not every day for other people. So I always have to pull myself back a little bit, because in my world, spirit's everywhere all the time. And I know not everybody sees that. So I guess what I would say is that the quick and dirty answer is that yes, we continue on. That life isn't over when the physical body dies. Mm-hmm. And I think that most people just don't understand that we can all perceive our past loved ones. There's a block because we think that we can't, or we just think we don't know how, or we don't actually know what we're looking for. But your past loved ones come back to you in many, many ways. And it's about having the intention to pay attention and to listen. I guess listen with your energy field is kind of a hard thing to explain, but to be in a constant awareness that they're with you, and they will show you. And I've had countless people come back and say, I keep seeing butterflies, or I keep seeing this yellow bird outside my window, or I keep seeing feathers, or a song came on the radio today that my mom loved, and I was thinking of my mom at the same time. And all those little signs are your loved ones trying to tell you they're okay. And then sometimes people show up here for a reading and they don't realize that their loved one has triggered them to come here. So a little glitch on their computer and they end up on my website, or they have an urge to like watch a YouTube video, and then they see me and they're like, oh, I should go see that lady. But they don't realize that their loved one has set up all those things so that they could find someone who could help them.
Well, and with that, Laura, and I don't mean to interrupt you. It's just out of curiosity. Why can't it be more blatant? Why can't it be like, my grandmother passed away, my grandpa just like literally scream in my ear and say something? Yeah, how come there? It seems like these are so subtle what they do. How come it's not sometimes more like a smacking a gong and like, hey, I'm here. Can't you see?
Yeah. Well, I mean, and I think I shouldn't say think, because I really do feel that we are on this kind of energy vibration. So we're on a vibration, and then they cross over into a different vibration. So we have many dimensions that are kind of all stacked up in the same place. We're all in the same place, but different vibrational energies. So it's hard for us to perceive them because we're working on a slower vibration and they're working on a very high vibration. So the frequencies are totally different. They don't interact unless we find a way to contact them. So they have to learn, in my work, spirit has to learn to bring their vibration down to the point where I can reach them. So I have to lift up my vibration to a high place. I have to kind of be like in an energetic state that's higher than I normally would be. And they have to pull themselves down to talk to me. And there's
like meeting in the middle somewhere. Right?
Yeah, like there's a little art for them as well. They also have to learn how to do this. It's not as simple. I don't think it's as simple maybe as it should be to give us comfort, but I do see that. I see that they have to really lower their vibration, and then I have to raise mine up, and then I have to hear them and understand them.
Sure.
So I don't think it's as simple as them just coming and like being able to talk to you, because they're learning the landscape too. They're trying to figure out how this all works as well.
So they need to do some things and we need to do some things to meet in the middle somewhere.
Sometimes I say to people, if you really want to connect with your loved one, and sometimes for different reasons, it doesn't always work, but I tell people to continue to try, because if you continue to try, you continue to put out that vibration that's what you're asking for. But I often will say to people, if you tell your loved one that there's a specific time that you'd like to meet with them, so maybe you used to sit down and watch a sports game with your father at a certain time every Friday. And so maybe you tell your father that passed on, like, hey, I'm going to sit down and watch the sports game. Can you join me? And just continue to do it. And like, join me and show me you're here. And a lot of times they will try to show you they're there. But if they're on a different vibration and they haven't found a way to come down to do something that you can perceive, then it's very difficult for you to perceive that they're even there.
Right. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I guess it just takes a lot of kind of, I don't want to say practice, but it takes, there's a learning curve, right? I mean, there's a learning curve from both sides, and, it just depends on where you meet in the middle somehow, and just, I think part of it, like you said, is asking. It's like, hey, come and talk to me, or come and show me,
Exactly. If you put the intention out there,
right.
Your intention and your awareness too, that they could come to you at that time, and staying in a heightened sense of awareness, because the way they communicate is not, it's not through something very simple. It's not through like talking. Now, sometimes, if we're thinking about like hauntings, for example, so how do like hauntings happen? How does that happen? But my sweet little grandmother can't come visit me.
Yeah.
So haunted happen on another vibration altogether. And the vibration, the intention is fear. The intention is to gather the energy from fear, or the intention is to try to communicate with you because that spirit actually does need help, but they're confused or they're angry or they're stuck. So the vibrational energy is quite low. So a lot of times they find a way to get your attention. But if the intention from spirit is love, it is that quiet voice. It is that quiet, steady, easy, sometimes like so peaceful you miss it message.
Right. Yeah. So is this really like learning to tune in, and I guess with a sense of love as well, maybe that.
Yeah. Like, I mean, we could say God, or we could say universal consciousness, or however people frame it. But I like to say that God has a sense of humor because here we are, and we're missing our loved ones and they're still there. They haven't gone anywhere really, but we can't perceive them. But then if there's some spirit that is lost or in desperation and the energy is much lower, then we perceive them when we don't want them, when that's an unwanted contact.
Sure.
We can perceive that sometimes, but we don't perceive the wanted contact because we're looking for something spooky, or we're looking for something very blatant, and it doesn't come forward like that. When it's somebody that loves you, they're not going to come forward and scare you.
Yeah. I mean, I when you say having a sense of humor, I think, what is Richard Pryor doing, with his, his spiritly tactics with us? I can't even imagine,
Well, that's the other thing too, is that there's no hierarchy on the other side at all. So if you are really connected to a celebrity or somebody that's passed, you can ask them for help in your own life. You can talk to them, and there's most of the time, 99% of the time, they will try to help you. Wow. It's pretty damn cool.
I'm gonna see what Richard says tonight.
Yeah, you should. Yeah.
Laura, just to conclude, and this has just been a fascinating conversation with you, and it's amazing the work you do. This might be a hard question, but can you give spirit lifters a glimpse of what the other side is like, if you know?
Actually, I asked years ago, I could see glimpses, I guess, through my readings, but it didn't feel like enough. And I asked years ago of my guides if they could take me to the other side so I could see. And it didn't happen right away, but I was persistent and I kept asking. So the whole experience for me, I'll try to keep it not too long, but I have the perception that I was flying, that I was with my guides, that they were helping me, and I showed up at a cabin that was really a rundown cabin. You could see through the boards, and I didn't know what I was doing there, but everything felt very good. I was excited. I remember that, and the door opened, and there was a little lady there, and she was hurrying around, and she was worried that we showed up too fast and she wasn't ready for us. And we had this little back and forth with her, and I basically said to her, it's okay, I can wait, it's okay, you can calm down, and we'll wait. So when she was ready, she opened up another door in the cabin, and when she opened up the door, I was in this place that was just pure light. We don't have proper words to explain it. It just felt like I was complete. I was one with every soul that was present. And I could look and see almost like hills of light beings. So they were just, all you could see was their form. So heads and shoulders, but there was so many of them that I couldn't count them. But it was almost like collectively they talked to me all at once, and they told me how much they loved me, how much they missed me, and they asked me where I had been and why I hadn't visited in so long. Really? And I had this overwhelming just feeling of love, bliss, joy. It was just any bit of fear that I would have had about dying absolutely was gone. Absolutely. Wow. And then I looked over to my side, to the right side, and I could see more light beings, but they were in a line, and they were all lined up to go back through the door that I had come through. And they started out as just light figures and then changed into more physical looking beings as the line got closer to the door. And a bunch of little kids that were in the line, they scooted out of the line and came over and hugged me, and they told me how much they missed me. And then they went back in the line, and then I was told my time there, I had to go back, I couldn't stay. So I went back through the door, and then that was it. I just peacefully continued on about, I was actually sleeping when it all happened, so I just, went back to sleep. But the next morning, my husband at the time told me that he woke up in the middle of the night and he saw my light form. So, and you have to understand, he wasn't into this work. He didn't understand all of it. He appreciated it, but he didn't really get it. But he said he saw my light form above my body, and it was just hovering there. And wow. For a moment, he thought I was dead. Like, he thought, that's it, she died in her sleep, but he could see I was breathing and all that. So he went back to sleep, and he said, I thought it was so weird that I just peacefully fell right back to sleep. But he had a glimpse of kind of my light being. So I think what people, a lot of people with near-death experiences, what they explain, it's not far away from what actually happens. But we have to put it into our human perception so we can explain it. So It can be hard to explain all the feelings and all the complete knowing that comes from being on the other side. When people die, they have loved ones around them helping them.
Really?
They have past loved ones come forward. Angels and guides come forward, and they will help them through the transition from the physical body into the energetic body. So they help them in that transition, and then they also help them move forward to the next space. So the next space usually is like a life review, where they can review their life and see how they affected people and how people saw them and perceived them. If they had a traumatic kind of life, or if they were abused, or if it was a suicide and there was trauma around the suicide, that soul would then be taken to a place where they can heal. So some people call this cocooning, but you go to a place where it's complete rest. It's just complete rest. Sorry, Laura, in the life review, is there any judgment, or is there just kind of noticing what you've done and did well or not well? This is where God does have a sense of humor, because there's no external judge. It's only the judgment you place on yourself. It's only you. Okay. Only. And we are our harshest critic, for anything we do. So there's no need for an external judge, and there is no judgment from any external source on the other side. None. It doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter what you've done, but that doesn't mean that you don't have sort of like rehab to go through, or counseling or therapy on the other side, because that happens with souls that haven't been able to manage their life very well. But I see it like we have our life review. If the cocooning is needed, like complete rest, then that's given. If it's not needed, then I see the soul kind of have the next stage for me is like the spirit party. So it's like all the spirits get together, and your past loved ones that were missing you and your family and all the people that have crossed before you are so happy to see you. And there's a reunion, like family reunion. And animals, like my dog. That's everything. Really? Yeah, absolutely. Great. Can't wait. After the reunion happens and things start to settle down, and you're kind of trying to learn the ropes, there's help for you to figure out how to do things there, like an orientation kind of thing. And then I see that usually a soul can decide where they want to go with what they've learned. So will they receive therapy so they won't repeat the same mistakes? Or will they receive training to do something on the other side? Or maybe they want to become a guide for a loved one. So they receive some help how to do that. And there's like there's a process that they can go through on the other side, or they can choose to just stay. And I've seen souls almost recreate their physical life because that's what makes them feel the best. So I've actually feel like you're kind of like peeping in on them, but I've actually been in homes like create their own energetic home. So a home that they loved, they will recreate it on the other side and have like an existence. And they'll wait for their living relatives to pass, or sometimes they'll plan to come back. They'll plan to be reincarnated so that they can come back and see their loved ones again in the living. So it's a lot of choices, and it's all up to the individual, but the life review always happens. And I see the reunions, they always happen.
Incredible. What does, and I'm wondering, you saying that too, if my, wife wants to have her husband as Elvis, am I going to be SOL or,
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm scared about that one.
She could ask. I mean,
yeah, she could ask.
He probably wouldn't be rude about it, but he'd have to agree. And so a lot of factors there. I don't know.
Laura, this was a fascinating conversation, and it's amazing the work you do. And I think it just really is so important for our lives, and so important for understanding our just essence of being, and just appreciating what we have now in this life, and what it really means, and really look forward to someday where we can go after we this body expires. So thank you so much for this opportunity to speak with you. And where can Spirit Lifters know more about you, to book a session, to you have courses, from what I saw as well, like where can people find you?
Well, the easiest place to go is my website. Everything is linked from there. So it's just laurawarrenmedium.com. Okay. And everything's there. Links to the Facebook page and YouTube channel and the courses. And they can book a session there too if they like, or they can send me an email if they like. So that's the easiest place to find everything.
Excellent. And Spirit Lifters, we're going to include all Laura's information in the video description below, so please be sure to check that out. And we'll see you on the next episode. Thank you so much.
Thank you.